Want to learn more about PSM topics? Be sure to check out the Creating and Maintaining Optical Transport Services using the BTI 7000 series or BTI 7800 series courses. For full details, just visit juniper.net/course/BTI 7000 or BTI 7800. Now let's get to your Learning Byte.
Hello, Greg Lehman here. In this PSM how-to video, we're going to create an Ethernet virtual private service. Earlier on, we demonstrated how to create an Ethernet private service. It's similar, but in this case, we care more about the CVLAN traffic and specifically what CVLANs are going to be admitted into the service. So once again, I have my PSM client launched, connected into my lab network, and I'm going to go ahead to my Ethernet service. I'm going to click it, select my Ethernet domain. So as mentioned previously, when network elements are discovered, they're placed into a grouping called a domain. You can name the domains. The default one, as the name implies, is the default. I was lazy, so a lot of my network elements were discovered into the default, so I'm going to just use that one. So I'm going to go ahead, click default, hit OK. Up top are my MEF service attributes, so I'll go ahead and create a test service. And I'm going to try spelling it right. I'm going to just use the SVLAN that PSM suggests because PSM is guaranteeing that it's unused. This time, as mentioned, I'm going to create an Ethernet virtual private service, right? So a line has 2 endpoints. A LAN has 2 or more endpoints. For the purposes of this how-to video, don't care about the number of endpoints. I'm going to pick EVP LAN. So there we go, and again, although not mandatory, I always like to associate a customer. This is so that later on, if you wanted to do specific queries whereby you can have a specific customer and understand what services are associated with that customer, you can do that. And this can always be added later, but we'll do it now. So here we go. So that was the actual service attributes. So now we have to select the endpoints. So in the Services tab, I'm going to click the plus sign and pick my network element. So all of these network elements are discovered as that into the default domain, right? So if you can't find your network element here, it's because it is not discovered in the domain that you selected. So I'm going to select a BTI 7000 product with PVX cards. My first PVX card, I'm going to select Gig 11. I'm going to add that as a uni. Right? Now PSM does allow you to add unis, NNIs, unilags, NNI lags. For the purposes of this how-to video, I'm going to add it as a uni. So I'm going to hit click. My second system is also BTI 7000. I'm going to pick the first PVX, and I'll also pick Gig 11 and hit add uni. So I'm done. I click away, and that dialog is displayed or dismissed. And now what happens is PSM will basically display to you what that service is going to look like given the network that PSM manages, right? So visually you want to look at this and understand, yes, there's my uni. And as you can see, hover is your friend. You put the mouse onto the uni or on any of the icons being displayed. You get the information you desire. I can see the port, layer 1, layer 2 statuses. I can see the various paths, the NNIs that comprise the network, and all the way back to my other uni. So Details tab, so this is very important because since this is a virtual private service, I need to map 802.1q or CVLAN tagged packets into this service. So I always tell people, if you map 0, you get 0, right? So no service will flow for real until you actually map something. So that's what this column right here is telling you, CVLAN mappings, and click to add. So I'm just going to click, and now I can go ahead and enter the CVLANs that I'm curious about or that I'm interested in. So I'm going to hit 20. Okay, and generally speaking, it obviously depends on the real network, but you're going to want the same VLAN on both ends. So I'm going to go there, I hit 20, and I put 20. Now if I wanted to, I can certainly add, as PSM is showing you, two things here. One, the little pop-up which says that you can enter a single value or a range or multiple values if they're comma separated. Also know in the bottom you see the red warning saying that basically I had a invalid data or a data entry problem, i.e. I accidentally hit the character M. So PSM is doing two things. It's validating what you're entering, and it's also giving you tooltips and hints to guide you with the data fill. So I'll go there. Bandwidth profiles, I always like to apply a bandwidth profile. I'm just going to go ahead and pick one. I know what this one is. Obviously, in a real network, you would pick something that would be meaningful and proper for that service. And that what I mean by meaningful is that it's going to have the proper and desired committed information rate, excess information rate, priority, etc. So kind of the gold, silver, bronze. And I'll also mention that a lot of customers, don't fill in the bandwidth profile, service profile. That's perfectly allowed. Traffic will flow. It's just that when you do not apply a profile, you basically are allowing traffic to be admitted into the network at line rate. So in this example, at a gig. So you're basically allowing a gig of traffic into the network. Again, nothing wrong with that, but I like having the profile there so it explicitly stands out to people that they're applying a profile to this service. Okay, so that was adding the CVLAN, so that was very important. If I want to, I can go to the advanced setting. I can enter additional information, circuit ID and description. So I'm just going to hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to activate that service. So right now, everything we've done it just lives only in this PSM client GUI. The activate button is going to send that into the PSM server. The server will then have to proxy this out and go to the various network elements, the A through Z provisioning that we speak about, and make the necessary provisioning. So when that is completed, the PSM server will talk back to my client via the task dialog in the bottom, and we know the outcome of the task. So I'll hit activate. And here we can see the task is running. Okay, and I can see here the service has created. Now we will wait, and this will allow the PSM client to go out and requery the server and rebuild that information. The server, once it sends the provisioning down to the network elements, will automatically requery all the network elements and gather all that new Ethernet service data. The CFM link trace has completed, and PSM is showing the path that the service data is taking throughout the network. So what we can also do if we wanted to view the details with that service, certainly when we're viewing it like this, we can use the mouse hover. So hover over any of the elements, unis, the actual ports themselves. And this is neat because when you hover over the ports, you get a lot of information, right? Sometimes hard to read because there's so much, but check it out. You can see IP addresses, names, the ports, MAC addresses, layer 1 admin status, layer 2 operational status, layer 1 admin and opper, layer 2 admin and opper, whether or not there are any alarms or deltas, which are changes associated with that network element. Here in the case there's a ERPS ring. I can see that's a blocked port up here, or that's the RPL that's in a protecting state. Right there, we can see right there the ERPS port state is blocking, and then here's our network element, and again, name, service, ERPS instances, and here's our other uni endpoint, and our CVLAN mappings. And if we want to double-click the service, we can actually see the attributes and start editing that service. So initially we filled this screen in when we created the service. Now if we wanted to go back and make changes, you can go ahead and do that here. So the service view is kind of a visual representation. The details is more tabular. One thing I'll mention, when we created the service, we really put in only the unis, the A and Z endpoints, because PSM does the work in between. By default, PSM displays the unis. Certainly if you wanted to look at all of the ports, and the NNIs only, you can go ahead and select the information that you desire. Okay. And last but not least, the SLA CFM tab. You can go there. We can actually see the Y1731 maps that were automatically created by PSM. We can see their mmap IDs. And really the more interesting thing is the fact that the two are talking and the state is okay. So I know right now that there's no issues with this endpoints of this service talking to each other. And that is it. That is the creation of an Ethernet virtual private service through PSM. Thanks much.
Visit the Juniper Education Services website to learn more about courses. View our full range of classroom, online, and e-learning courses. Learning paths, industry segment and technology-specific training paths. Juniper Network's certification program, the ultimate demonstration of your competence. And the training community, from forums to social media. Join the discussion.